here tonight to do our magic bag pack up and the exciting time lapse, and this is in the mess room, which is on the ground floor at Sunpier House, and I share this space with Christopher Saker, and I work a lot with blind and partially sighted people and find projects and create opportunities for us to have exhibitions and enable and help. And Christopher, as you are aware or not, is deaf, so he's a BSL user, and we work together, so he has a deaf audience, and it just fits very nicely together. So we're both sculptors, that's what we are in the background, so our skills complement each other, so we can rely on the other to assist if we're finger casting or doing some mould making.
That was Wendy Daws, critical friend for the artists in Strood. We're here tonight in the community space of the mess room, as Wendy said, helping to pack welcome goodie bags that will be available at the launch. This is Barry Fentiman Hall of Wordsmithery.
And Sam Hall of Wordsmithery.
We've been talking to the Kent and Medway based artists who were commissioned by Medway Council on the Welcome Temporary Public Art Project, which will launch, or have launched, on the 26th of March 2022, depending on when you are listening to this.
So what actually is the Welcome Temporary Public Art Project? We asked Robyn Goldsmith, Culture Development Manager of Medway Council's Culture Team.
It's basically funded by the central government, and we've been really lucky to have some money to spend in Rainham and Strood. And the Welcome Back Fund is all about welcoming people back into the town centres after COVID, giving people that confidence to get back out there and spend time in the town centres, looking at sort of supporting local businesses coming back after COVID. And really it's just an opportunity for us to celebrate those two towns and everything that makes them special through arts and culture.
So what was the reasoning behind choosing Rainham and Strood out of all the towns?
Well, we have had a couple of projects that have happened in the past. So we had the Rainbow Effect, which was a response to COVID in the first instance. And then we had a project called Jillian Powell, which was a kind of open air high street art gallery that happened along Gillingham High Street last summer. And I think it was so popular and it kind of captured the attention of people from all across Medway. And it's kind of felt that, it'd be really nice to repeat something like that across other towns. And for us, Rochester gets its fair share of cultural activity, as does Cottam. Mm-hmm. And Gillingham, it was lovely to go there last year because they don't seem to get as regular cultural offer there, and so does Rainham and Strood. Really, they sometimes get a bit left out, so it's really nice to take something there that's special and unique to their two towns.
Yeah.
Artists Nadia, Perrotta and Wendy Daws have acted as something called a critical friend to the Rainham and Strood artists on this project. You heard Wendy at the start of this podcast. That's not a friend who criticises you, but we'll let Nadia and Wendy explain.
It's a very interesting role to have, because you work along with fellow artists and you support them along the process. When I started, I was also wondering what that would mean for me, and what I've experienced is that to work along with fellow artists, which was great, and to follow them with the process and share my experience. As a multimedia artist, I've had experience with public commissions in the past years, and also, especially in Medway, I worked quite a lot with the local authorities as well, and in similar commissions like this one. So I was able to give advice and share ideas Of course, there is a limit of what the critical friend should do because the artist has the last word, the last decision.
Yes, I think you've got the benefit of knowing what it's like to work on a public commission because you've been there. So I've done commissions before, and then it's great to have that overall view. So you know what the commissioner wants, and then you know what you want to do as the artist, and then there are these constraints that come in that you do want to make it in jelly, and that was your initial idea, and the commissioner's not going to go for that jelly idea. So then it's trying to work around that. So you can't do it in jelly, but what's another way that you can? And no one has done any work in jelly, which is a shame. So maybe I will next time. But I think there's you can lend your experience to the artist, but you can also act as a brilliant go-between because you know what the commissioner, what their parameters are, what the funder wants. I think as an artist as well, being this critical friend to artists, you get very excited about their work, and then you have to bite your lip as well. It's like, what about the jelly? What colour jelly? No, sorry, there's no jelly. So yeah, I really enjoy it. I like that middle ground.
The commissions in Strood and Rainham are very different, though they share common themes, and I think you'll have fun spotting them. Some are easier to find than others, with one in Strood being around billboard size, and one commission in Rainham taking the form of a treasure hunt of small images to discover in shops.
Kicking off with the Strood side of the river, we spoke to Catriona Faulkner, whose commission is Strood Tales. Catriona is a stitch and assemblage artist who uses objects symbolically to create shrine-like works. We interviewed Catriona down by the Medway River, so listen out for the seagulls.
So I am going to ask you what Strood Tales is all about.
So, the piece of work is called Strood Tales, and that title comes from Thomas Becket, when he was murdered in Canterbury Cathedral. 5 days before that, he came to Strood, and the people of Strood were not impressed. They did not like him, so they surrounded him and cut the tail off his horse, and he then cursed the people of Strood to have tails forever. So that's where the title of the work comes from, and the piece of work is all about the history of Strood. So ancient history, Romans, Thomas Becket, all of those bits are in the piece of work. So that's where
I had heard the tale about the tails, and I was hoping that was why it would be.
Yeah.
How does Strood Tales kind of fit into your general practice of what you do as an artist?
Okay, so generally my actual practice, I collect and I stitch and I make pieces of work that are quite often inspired by shrines and religion and memorials, and that's my practice. And lots of my practice is about me and pain and all the things that are to do with me. But I am obsessed with history. So when this project came up, my brain could easily interpret what I love about Strood and what I love about history into my practice. And my practice actually deals with a lot of kind of metaphors and symbols.
Yeah.
So that angle has allowed me to really discover things about Strood. So when I was reading about, there was lots of windmills. There was lots of windmills in Strood.
Right.
And Dickens went to visit one of the windmills really near where I live.
No, you don't hear about him in Strood too much.
No, you don't. But there's so many bits to Strood that he really couldn't be the main focus. There were so many things to play with. The weekend I've been drilling holes in Roman coins because of Charles Roach Smith and all the stuff I found out about him, and the British Museum bought his collection of Roman coins, so he's got to be in there. The idea is this piece of work will be printed. So I've never done that with my practice before. It's always three-dimensional and it goes to a gallery or people buy that. But this time I'm making a piece of work that will then become an image we're just trying to clarify where the image might go at the moment.
So it's a bit of a departure.
It's a kind of progression.
Like, you know.
And I've never really thought about that before.
Catriona's work deals with hand-stitched miniature details. Our next artist, Darrell Hawkins' piece, Strood Welcomes You, has been designed to be displayed on a much larger scale. Darrell is a Medway born and bred artist and musician. He specialises in bold, bright and contemporary paintings, fusing abstract and figurative elements, with much of his work being a celebratory ode to Medway.
Okay, so what I've gone for is basically what will be a large digital piece. So I normally make paintings on canvas with figurative elements and abstract stuff as well, and lots of different mark making and colours, and try and make it bright and bold. So but with this, because it's going to be large scale, I've gone for a digital piece, so hopefully it will be kind of somewhere nearing billboard size. I created it sort of through kind of wandering around Strood and taking photos and sketches and that kind of thing, and just wanted to try and capture that experience, I suppose.
Yeah, so you got a feel of sort of what Strood means to you.
Yeah,
at least from exactly. So I mean, had you been there much before, or I mean, you're not very far away, you know that.
I was born in Cottam, and obviously now I live in Rochester, but I sort of visit Strood a lot, you know, for the same reasons a lot of people in Medway do, I suppose. And then I've sort of also sourced images, you know, archive images and elements of the river and that kind of thing, just to try and, you know, as well as the new, have some of the kind of history in there.
It's excellent the way you've mixed up different time sort of scales on that one. I mean, the Strood is very, very much a riverside, isn't it? I mean, there's a very, very long expanse of it on there, and it's great to get that in there. I mean, how does it fit in with your general practice that you've sort of developed over the years? Has it flown easily from that?
Yeah, definitely, because I obviously growing up here and before I went to university at Brighton, most of my work was predominantly about Medway, and I've revisited it over the years and continued to, you know, be inspired by the area, and it sort of always creeps into my work. So that sort of feels quite natural to use Strood as well. My dad had like a garage for maybe 20 years in Strood, and I spent quite a lot of my childhood down there and stuff, kind of by the river. So it's a very nostalgic place to me as well. So
I guess you found stuff coming out in the work for this that you didn't expect, that was kind of just already there.
Yeah.
The towns of the Medway Delta all share the river flowing through them, and whilst each town is unique, there are many similarities. One of them being the closeness to green spaces. We literally have nature around us in every direction if we care to look. On cattle on Darland banks, the marshes of Riverside Country Park in Rainham, the fantastic view from Broomhill Park in Strood. And this proximity to nature has been an indirect and direct inspiration for some of the artists. Wendy Cotton is a Medway-based mixed media artist with a focus on sculpture, using plaster, clay and found objects. Her sculpture, Gaia, Mother Nature, has been inspired by the natural flora and fauna of Strood, the panoramic views across the Medway, and the Victorian Strood-born botanical illustrator Anne Pratt. We met with Wendy by the River Medway. You may be able to hear the seagulls in the background.
I am creating a life-size sculpture of Mother Nature, and it's inspired by all of this, all of the views all around me. I started it about a while ago, and she's going really well. Yeah.
Does she have a name?
She does. She's Gaia.
Gaia,
Mother
the living
Nature.
earth.
Yeah. She's standing. She's all in place. I'm just finishing her off really. I've got another couple of weeks before she's got to be left to just sit, drying time for that. Yeah, a couple of weeks.
Could you tell us a little bit about the process of making this sculpture?
She is created from string, tough plaster, But walking around all of Strood, all of Caxton, just looking at my environment, looking at the trees, the colours, the seasons, everything that I see really. I came across an illustrator, Anne Pratt, from Victorian era, and she done beautiful botanical illustrations, and they've inspired my colour work. Yeah.
How would you say Gaia fits in with other stuff that you've done?
I kind of look at things organically, like on a universal scale, so it's always looking at nature and the shapes in nature and the wonder and the gift that it gives us. So I think that's where Gaia kind of fits in with my work.
Of a piece.
Yeah.
Of a piece.
Yeah.
From the embodiment of the natural world in Wendy's artwork, we move to an iconic piece of street furniture that has almost disappeared from our modern streets. Have you ever even used a BT Red phone box? It's amazing or scary to think that many younger people might not. Rachel from I Printed That has based her project, Who Would Welcome a Call, on this now almost obsolete piece of furniture. We spoke to her in the Holpham Pop Gallery in Rochester.
So what I have done, I've got BT's permission to use the phone box in Strood, next to the Strood Post Office, and I'm going to be filling 300 old green BT phone cards with people's memories of using phone boxes. So that might be conversations that they've had, it could be like really life-changing conversations, kind of just those mundane weekly calls that kind of got made. It could just be memories about using phone boxes. So for example, I've had one, someone said we used to phone the GPO number and we get something called dial-a-disc, and they can listen to the latest music. We've got memories from the 50s right through to the early 2000s.
Are you particularly asking people from the Strood area to give you their memories of that rather than, say for instance me listening to one in Yorkshire?
Yeah, correct. So it's people that live and work in Strood currently or have previously lived and worked in Strood. There'll be a few others kind of thrown into the mix, but the majority of those will be coming from Strood. Yeah, so I did look at the project and think, how can I put printmaking in? And I really wanted to involve the community and get engagement and kind of try and get some sort of cross-generational conversations going as well. And the only way I could think of was, rather than do it with print, doing it with actual phone cards and putting the memories on those. So although my practice doesn't really relate to the project that I'm doing, it's something that's very sort of close to my heart, and I'm really interested in social history, especially those kind of little memories that just, if they're not recorded, they're just going to get lost. So for example, my mum and dad have put a couple of memories in, and I've learnt stuff about them that I didn't know, and if I hadn't been doing this project, I might never have known about
to
it.
a certain extent you're capturing a history of a sort of fading technology. Now we move to the pieces in Rainham, where Wendy Cotton's Gaia sculpture has found a sympathetic companion. Island Project's Nicole Mullitz Eco Rainham is a series of drawings inspired by local individuals who care for the environment. Displayed at Rainham railway station and in various shops around Rainham, the illustrations for a magical environmentally themed treasure hunt. Nicole is a socially engaged artist who likes to draw. Nicole's commission is made up of two parts: a sign that says Rainham in illustrated letters, which will be displayed at the train station.
And that is actually basically pointing towards what I consider to be the actual work, which is a series of small drawings. So originally I was going to do like a larger installation in a shop window, but I've struggled to find actually the space to do a large installation. So what my solution for the problem was, but I actually quite like this permutation anyway, is that the work is going to be a series of miniature drawings that is a bit like a treasure hunt. So viewers will come into Rainham, presumably by train, but they might walk as well, and see the sign, and then that will kind of challenge them or suggest to them to start looking for these artworks. And they'll be in a range of shops. Obviously the shop owner will know where they are, but rather than, you know, clearly labelling them, I want them to be something that people perhaps come across by chance. They might not have seen the sign and they'll be like, oh, what's this? And then that will kind of spark their curiosity to find the rest of the artworks. I've worked in Rainham before. I've got friends who live there, and like when I started looking at putting a proposal towards this call out, I immediately noticed, just simply on social media alone, how passionate certain members of the community were about the environment. Obviously Rainham, you know, is set within what you would define as a sort of semi-rural area. There's you know, if you come to it from the Medway Tunnel, there's like literally fields and fields of orchards and various different farmers' fields. And then obviously it's, you know, sprawling residential areas. But, you know, looking at it and speaking to friends and local people, I realised that, you know, people really care about their local environment, the nature, but also obviously the wider issue of climate change and what they can do to help sort of prevent, you know, possible negative outcomes in the future. So there's things like there's a recycling hub. You know, there's a place where you can refill food with your own containers, thus, you know, putting more or less plastic into the production chain. There's a group of people who've been planting trees in various local parks. And obviously the more trees we have, the less CO2 there is. There's all, you know, there's multiple, you know, different aspects of this, but I just noticed that, you know, people are really, you know, passionate about the environment. And I thought this is a really interesting thing, because not every, you know, people aren't like that everywhere, obviously. And I think this is something worth celebrating, and it's something that makes Rainham special. Like, generally speaking, you know, as a lowly individual, you might read stuff about climate change and go, what can I do? You know, oh my God, you know, it's scary, it's complex, it's overwhelming, you know, and often you might think, oh, it's happening over there, it's not going to happen here. You know, so there is I would understand and empathise with people who kind of feel powerless, but, you know, the point is that you can do very little things, and even simply by connecting with nature, so becoming more aware of nature, you know, learning about, you know, your local wildlife, perhaps, you know, creating a small habitat, even if you've only like got a small flower pot or something on a balcony, you know, there's things you can do that can help. And I think this is what the point of my project is, you know, obviously I don't expect everybody to suddenly turn into kind of eco-activists and joining Extinction Rebellion, although that would be cool. But, you know, the point is that if we all just did a little bit more and made small incremental decisions within our lives, thinking, you know, oh, you know what, I can walk to the shops, I don't need to drive there, then all together the collective action would have an impact. So I sort of think that's kind of more my point, or that's what I'm trying to highlight, isn't to sort of like shove some massive political message down people's throats, but more to sort of go, okay, you know, everybody can do something, and isn't this a wonderful thing that, you know, we've all got the power to make small changes, and those small changes might add up to something.
Karen Scudder, our next artist, also likes to draw. You may have seen a lovely little booklet from Gillingham's POW Arts Trail, which showcased Karen's Drawing in Gillingham. Karen's commission for the Welcome project is Drawing in Rainham, which develops an idea close to her heart, that drawing is good for mental well-being. A report from the National Alliance for Arts, Health and Wellbeing suggests that having a creative hobby can actually benefit our mental and emotional health. It follows 2 years of research which found that the arts can help us to keep us well, aid recovery and support people to live longer and healthier lives. Karen visited various groups who have been able to support each other through lockdown and are now able to meet up again in person. We spoke to Karen as we walked along the chalk path in Horsted Valley behind Fort Luton. Listen out for the birds. It's a beautiful area, so go for a walk there if you get a chance.
When I went to Rainham, I became interested in lots of small groups that I found happened. First of all, it was a yoga class, then volunteer group that happens at the cemetery, at the church, and a women's group that takes place once a month. So a lot of kind of small groups that are happening of people joining together, especially after having lockdowns, and I could see that it was really improving a lot of people's mental health, or it had continued to do so throughout lockdown, and these groups of people had stayed together and in contact. So I wanted to document that, really, go and meet them and draw them as they were taking part in their activities. I've drawn at Rainham Church. I've been drawing them as they're volunteers, a group of volunteers that I think some of them have been coming for about 30 years to the church to tidy the graves, mow all the grass, just kind of keep it in order. And they finish at 10:30 every Saturday for a break and have a cup of tea and some biscuits and chat about what they've got to do, and just it's a really good place for them. A lot of them have said to me that in lockdown they've quite struggled, but this group has really helped them.
Because I noticed from your commission that you did for the Gillingham project that kind of your practice is sort of about kind of helping with your mental health.
Yes. I mean, I love to draw, especially found over the last few years doing a lot of observational drawing has really helped me when kind of everything seems to be going crazy in the world. Just focusing on small things, be it things in the garden, people around me, and just kind of noticing what's happening, the change of the seasons and everything. It's done me a lot of good.
Do you find walking inspiring?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I was thinking you might.
Yeah, especially I walk to work and I love my walk. You notice all the changes, you hear the birds. See changes people have made to their houses. You see just people out and about, people walking their dogs, and I really kind of lifts my spirits seeing all that kind of thing. So I've got I'm going to be putting my work up in the bus stops, the bus shelters, so that as people are waiting for their buses, they can have a look, and maybe that might inspire them to take part in something or find out about groups, and just kind of reassuring, I suppose, that things are kind of happening and people are getting together. When I took part in Jillian Powell, I just started doing a lot of observational drawing again. I really had enjoyed it as a kid. I'd enjoyed it as an adult. I've always drawn whatever I've done in my life, and I've always carried on drawing. And I've found that this time I'm kind of looking at it in a bit of a different way. I'm thinking more, rather than just kind of drawing, I'm kind of targeting certain, like the groups I've done. I'm drawing a lot more drawings of people. Before it was a lot more landscapes. So it's kind of, I'm learning. The first time I kind of was managing a budget, all of that kind of thing. Now it's kind of, I kind of know a bit more what I'm doing, and really enjoyed doing the workshops as well. So.
Whereas Karen's people are fairly small and will be displayed at bus stops, our next artist plan is for a life-size collection of sketchbook studies of people passing by each other in Rainham Precinct. David Frankum is an artist, illustrator, designer and teacher.
So you can't really, well, if it's for audio, you can't really see it. But here's my pocket sketchbook, you see?
Yeah.
And these are just two studies from the 30 odd that I did when I was in Rainham Precincts. Now, I've been documenting my life and what goes on around me in these sketchbooks since I was 16. I'm 49 now. So you can imagine there's quite an archive of collection of work of my life where I've been. And again, just documenting what's going on around me. So I'm producing let's put it as a big mural, basically, which is going to go in the shopping precinct in Rainham. It's quite a large space that I have to use, which is great. And the idea is that basically I spent a considerable amount of time in the shopping precinct just sketching people into my pocket sketchbook as they basically were going about their normal daily lives, you know. And it was remarkable just watching and studying them, how many wonderful little moments of kindness was shining through, and just seeing how people were just going about their daily business. And it's quite nice. And I think what I'm trying to do with the work, in a sense, is to celebrate the ordinary and celebrate the everyday, which I think that we don't do enough of. I think the everyday has become more apparent and become more special with the different things that have happened over the last couple of years, i.e. of the COVID pandemic. It was amazing how many people all of a sudden could hear birds singing and just enjoying the small little things in life, which are the small things in life are generally the best things in life, to be honest. And yes, and another element of what I'm producing is that it's amazing how you can be in an area amongst other people, amongst strangers, or they may seem like strangers, but you're all kind of doing the same thing. You're there for the same reason, and therefore you're building a connection. And yes, you're connecting with other people without necessarily knowing them, which I think is quite a magical experience in itself. It's something I've particularly noticed when I've been traveling on, say, like the Underground in London, and looking around thinking, well, what is everyone on this train doing? Where are they going? But as it holds, we're all sitting on the same train, going about doing something. But at that moment in time, we're occupying the same space, doing exactly the same thing. So even though we're all strangers from different areas, we all of a sudden we are connected, if that makes sense.
It does. You pretty much answered my second question. I was going to ask really sort of what Rainham means to you, and how you know what your inspiration was for doing that. You've pretty much already said really. Do you live in Rainham?
Yes, I live in Rainham. I was born in Gillingham, but I've spent, I would say, apart from living in Wiltshire for a few years, I've spent the majority of my life living in Rainham. So yes, where I still currently live. And it's going back to what I just said. It's the small little things in a place like Rainham which really stand out, the little gems, you know. Yeah. And it's those things which should really be celebrated, and they will become this whole welcome things. It's very much all about that anyway. It is in those smaller areas of Medway, I suppose, those little pockets which contain so many different little hidden gems. And you only have to stop and look around and pause and look around for a little while, and it's amazing how many things start to become very apparent how wonderful things are around you.
The piece by our last artist in Rainham, Becky is something that the audience can directly interact with. Talking tags are a series of large wooden gift tags featuring different conversation prompts and engraved illustrations. You can find them hanging from benches in Rainham shopping precinct. Becky is a community and visual mixed media artist. She is interested in human character strengths and often explores values of kindness, hope and curiosity through creativity.
So I'm making a piece called Talking Tags, and that's going to be a series of large-scale wooden gift tags that are going to be attached to benches in Rainham Shopping Centre. And on each of these tags there's going to be a different question that will be laser engraved, and those questions will be kind of there as prompts for conversations. So somebody might be sitting on the bench next to a stranger and they could use it in that way. Or maybe you're just walking along and there's this curious object on the bench and you go look at it, see there's an interesting question and maybe ask somebody later. And each of the tags will also have illustrations around them linked to the question to kind of make them eye-catching. So I'm trying to have them quite light-hearted and fun. So one of the questions is, if you were a wrestler, what would your entrance song be? And then yeah, and I tested some of these questions out, and that one's quite a fun one. People are quite keen to be like imagining themselves in that situation, having a grand entrance. And then there's like, you know, if you could only eat one cuisine for the rest of your life, what would it be? And then there's one, like, what's your favourite place about, what's your favourite thing about the place that you live? So thinking more locally, probably about the area around Rainham. So there's some drawings there of some local buildings, and also homes, you know, like I think many people might think about that question in terms of places of, you know, comfort and safety. Like lots of creative people, I don't just do one thing, but if I had to describe it, it would be a visual and community artist. So I often facilitate workshops with community groups, and I'm quite interested in working with other people to encourage their creativity, and like help foster human connections and just having a good time together, really. And then I also make work like this, which is, you know, I'm coming up with the questions and the illustrations, but my research has involved going out and talking to people in the street, and it's very much still about connecting people, just in a different way.
This has been our virtual wander around the Welcome Project in Rainham and Strood. We hope you've enjoyed it. Although the commissions are all quite different, there are a lot of common themes that we've seen. Nature and the environment, how people relate to their environment, how people are able again to relate to each other. Not just your individual bubble, but random strangers. And how being out in nature, how doing artistic activities, how relating to your community can enhance your well-being. And remember, most of the pieces will be up for a year. So get out in the fresh air and check out some wonderful public art.
Well, there is definitely a lot of observing people walking around. I think all the artists have this common theme, and I think it is because we've been in lockdown for such a long time, and people are finally out, and that's actually what this project is about, to welcome people. So it was nice to see how the artists were focusing on the community and on the people of the community.
Your hosts on this podcast have been Sam Hall and me, Barry Fentiman Hall. We run a literary organisation called Wordsmithery based in Medway.
We spoke to Robyn Goldsmith, Nadia Perrotta, Wendy Daws and the Rainham Welcome artists, Karen Scudder, David Frankum, Nicole Mullitz, Becky Vincer and the Strood artists, Darrell Hawkins, Wendy Cotton, Rachel from I Printed That and Catriona Faulkner. The music you've been listening to, Up and Away, was written by Rohare Music, and he's kindly let us use it for this podcast. You can find more of his music on Soundcloud. Do a search for Rohare Music.
If you would like to hear the interviews in full, you can do a search for Wordsmithery and the Welcome Project on YouTube. If you'd like more Wordsmithery, check out our website for our latest projects, www.wordsmithery.info.
This opportunity has been created using funding from the Welcome Back Fund, from the European Regional Development Fund, and administered by the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government. The objective for this funding is to create and promote a safe environment for local trade and tourism, particularly in high streets, as their economies continue to cope with the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic.